Welcome to episode 23 of Mental Mastery, where we interview the world's greatest minds on what it takes to live an epic life. I'm your host, Max Weigand, and today I'm joined by Doepker, who is the founder of Excuse Proof Fitness and a #1 best-selling fitness author. I recently read his book, Breaks Through Your BS, and wanted to learn more about overcoming excuses, finding our blind spots, and unleashing our greatness. So Derek, welcome to the show.
Yeah, glad to be here, Max.
Thanks so much. So before we dive into some of the lessons from your book and your work, could you define for my audience what you mean by breaking through your BS? Because I think it's a concept that isn't talked about enough in the personal development industry yet.
Yeah, so I take a few different angles on the idea of BS and what does it mean. So you have the BS typical, meaning like bullshit, the excuses, the stories and things that we tell ourselves. Another approach of it is blind spots. So what are the blind spots that we all have? So no matter how developed and evolved and how much work you do on yourself, there's just certain things that we're not going to be able to see from inside ourselves, inside our own perspective, or the way that we're focusing at a point in time. And so having a coach, a mentor, an outsider, or in the case of the book, that acts kind of as a fill-in coach to ask certain questions can help shift your perspective around, different things. So, even just the fact that if I'm focusing on my computer screen right now, I'm not seeing what's over in the other room right now. That's a blind spot for me. And that, we all have that, and we can get more practical examples here in a little bit. But that's one of the things. And then belief systems, so breaking through belief systems. Now, there's nothing wrong with having belief systems. We need them to function. But there's certain belief systems that might have been useful at one point in time and not so useful. So someone goes through maybe certain trauma and they say, I can't get close to people. It's dangerous if I get close to people and open up. Well, that might actually protect them for a certain period of time. But at some point in their life, they're going to realize, they may realize that if they really want to be fulfilled, or if they want to have, let's say, a loving relationship, they need to adopt a new belief system that's going to be more empowering and serve them even more. So it's really taking a look. The whole idea of breaking through your BS is not about someone else telling you this is what you should do and this is what you should believe necessarily. It's really fulfilling your own inner sense of, I know this is what's holding me back. And here's a simple question. This will put it more in perspective. I would just ask anyone listening to this, either one of these two questions. What are you doing that you need to not do or do less of? What are you not doing that you need to start doing or do more of? And chances are, if you're like me, I'm like, okay, I got plenty of things. I'm surfing. I get on social media when I don't need to. And I tell myself check emails later in the day, but sometimes I wake up and I get caught in that instead of doing more productive work. Or it could be something, I didn't, I know I need to have that tough conversation with someone in my life and I keep holding back. Or, oh yeah, I keep telling myself I'm going to go to the gym, but I haven't started. Like almost everyone's going to have these things that come up about the things that they're doing that they know they don't need to do, or not doing that they know they need to do. And then that's not an outside person coming in saying this is what you should do and how you should live your life. This is just your own inner awareness understanding what's in your own best good, and then really exploring, okay, so why am I not doing these things, or why am I doing these things that aren't in my best interest? Like, I'm aware of it. I know better. So why am I not doing better? That's what Breakthrough BS is about.
Yeah, well, so many good points here that we can dive a little deeper in, but I really love what you're saying here about really becoming more self-aware. So not just listening to the outside, like, oh, what should I do? So many people, I think, are constantly looking for the quick fix, right? The next, perfect strategy, perfect tool, like sort of learning from blogs and stuff, rather than also like looking on the inside, right? Because I think we have so much intelligence, we have so much capabilities to really figure things out on our own just by sort of taking a step back and observing our life. And really looking at, hey, what are the things, like you said, right, that I'm doing and that aren't serving me, right? Or what are the things that I'm not doing yet that would serve me? And I think just by becoming a little more aware of, our own bullshit that we're telling ourselves on a daily basis, or the bullshit that we're doing on a daily basis, I think we can do so much powerful stuff in our lives. So out of all the kind of parts or different types of bullshit, the excuses, justifications, which one do you find people struggle with the most?
I would say, this would actually be a good time to bring up this point before I get into what people struggle with the most. Would be one of the forms of BS that can come up is looking at someone else and comparing yourself to others and saying, well, that's the way I need to live my life because that worked for them, or that's what they need to work on. Now, part of Breakthrough BS, there's always like the pro con, there's the double-edged sword. There's a good time to compare yourself to others, especially when you're motivated and inspired by what they do. But I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and authors, and it's like, oh, that's how so-and-so runs their business. That's what I need to do. Oh, that's what Gary Vaynerchuk does, or that's what Tim Ferriss does, or that's like, yeah, maybe that's what it's best for them. Maybe you can learn from that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's what's ideal for you. You know, there's a certain amount of modeling others, and then going, what's your own path? What's best for you? And that's one of the reasons why it's this outside, you know, getting outside influence, but also really going with them. And I say that before answering this question, because I could say, well, what's the biggest thing? And it's like, well, maybe it's the biggest thing in general, but it might not be what you, the listener, needs most right now. So there's the common things, you know, about identity. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Those kind of things, those limiting beliefs, those excuses, if you will. And then there's the external things like I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, all those sorts of things. And with that point, the reason why that's BS, and this is important to understand, is let's say someone says, I don't have enough money to do what I want to do. Okay. I don't call BS on that fact. I go, if you don't have enough money in the bank, you don't have enough money in the bank. That's not a mindset thing. It's like, it's not there, right? It's not like you just got to think your way through it and do it. Where it comes in, the BS is thinking that your current reality has to stay your current reality, and going, I don't have enough money. Well, that doesn't mean, you know, if someone put a gun to my head, or if someone says, you know, I'm going to kidnap your family and you'll never see them again unless you come up with $10,000 by the end of this week, or whatever, or however much. Like, I don't think I would sit there and go, oh, I don't have $10,000. I guess I'm never going to see my family again. I'd be like, okay, how can I do this? I would get, you know, it would go into a mindset. Who do I need to call? What do I need to do? It would go into a constructive mode of going, my current situation doesn't have to stay my current situation. How can I? So that's the shift in perspective. And this comes back to what I mentioned before about shifting in blind spots. Focusing on the present moment is really useful at times. And then there's times to go, okay, I don't have the money, let's just say, because it's tangible and easy to talk about. How can I raise the money? Who might be able to fund me? A quick example of that, I was at an event, a seminar, and the speaker was telling a story. There was a guy there who wanted to join this big like business mastermind. He comes in, he's talking to the speaker, Jason. He goes, Jason, you know, I really want to do this, but you know, I don't have the money. You know, do you have some advice or something that you can help me with? And he goes, okay. I forget exactly how he set it up, but he's like, you know, if you really believe in this, you know, can you sell someone? Can you sell someone else on believing in you? And maybe that's saying, hey, you know, if you help fund me in this, I'll give you a percentage of my business or something like that. So the guy goes out 20 minutes later, he comes back, he's like, yep, I got the funding. He found someone who he was able to, you know, sell himself, sell his passion and his mission. And someone says, yeah, I believe in you, I'll fund you, and then work out a business deal or whatever. So that's an example of that mindset of going, you know, you're not going to let your current reality limit a future possibility. And I would say that at the heart of it, that's what a lot of the excuses and things are. It's not that they're wrong. It's just that they're only right in this moment. And now it's the next moment. Now it's the next moment. So whatever, we only know what's past tense, right? I only know, I mean, literally in the brain, we're only picking up what happened just, you know, fractions of a fraction of a second ago. And even the idea that I don't have enough money, I don't know if a check's in my mailbox right now that maybe I didn't expect. I don't know if someone just sent me some money. And again, I just go back to money because it's a tangible example, but it could be the same thing with time. How many ways might I be able to leverage my time? Who might be able to help me with things that I'm not considering that I can outsource? What are the things that I'm doing that I think I need to do that I don't really need to do that would free up time? So all of that kind of comes down to this idea of we can acknowledge the partial truth of like the way things really, when people say it's the way things are, it's the way things have been. And that's the distinction. You never know how things are until this very moment. So anything you think is reality is just a past tense. And if it's past tense, it means you can make a different future tense.
This is so powerful. I absolutely love that, because I think most of the excuses, they have a real valid point, right? Like, hey, you may not have the skills yet. You may not have the resources, the money, whatever you said, right? But it's always that, like you said, it's always based on the past. It's always based on what you've done so far, not what you're able to do further down the line in the future. So I love this point about just realizing that your excuses might be 100% valid, right? They may be 100% objectively true, but it's still bullshit, because there is always a way to figure things out, to make things better, to change things further down the line for the future, right? So absolutely love that. Now, do you have a process in your own life, or any kind of questions, any tools that you use to regularly sort of take a look at your life and see, okay, this is the bullshit, and call yourself out on that? Or how does that process work for you of really, you know, constantly like overcoming your bullshit?
Yeah. So the two questions I gave earlier are great questions. And I got that. I learned those. I have a training as an NLP trainer, neuro-linguistic programming. Now, I'm not an NLP guy. I think there's some stuff in there that's cool. I think there's some stuff in there I kind of question. At the same time, I've just learned from different coaching modalities. So learning in the coaching world, there's a lot of different useful questions, and those are two of them. So again, what am I doing that I need to stop doing? What am I not doing that I need to start doing? And then the variation of that is do less of or do more of. Maybe it's not that I need to completely like never surf Facebook again. But are there times are there certain times a day where I'm doing it that I don't need to do it, or doing it too much, or things like that? So those are two great questions. Having another good question is, learning in business is not what, it's who at times. Not what do I need to learn, it's who can help me with this, who has the answer, who's already skilled at this. So that's another question where just shifting that perspective, that's an example of a blind spot. It's not that you never ask yourself, what do I need to learn? There's certainly times where you do that. But then it's like, maybe if I'm so stuck on that track that I go, wait a second. No, it's not what in the situation, is who, or who else can I bring on my team? Who is a coach? Maybe that they have the question that I would never even think to ask, but I need to connect with them and see if they have the answer. So going back to that whole thing, if I had to come up with $1 million by the end of this month, my own brain's probably not going to come up with an answer of how to do that. But if I go, well, who do I know? Oh, I have in my network, or if not immediate network, I probably know someone who would have an answer to that, or who'd be able to help with that. So that's who do I need to reach out to? Who do I need to talk to? So that's another, just the shift from what to who as a question. Another shift, a simple shift, is going from what can I do? Which of course, again, good question. Then going, what can we do? So that's also including the who. And I give a practical example. I'll go back to business. If I'm promoting a product, I go, what can I do to market and promote the product? But then I go, what can we do? What can I get the users, a reader of my book, for instance, how can I incentivize them to want to share my book with others? Who are other influencers and podcast hosts, for instance, who might be a good partner to connect with? And how could we collectively share and get our work out there in the world? So these little questions, and changing, if I find myself I'm stuck on I might switch it to we, or what to who, or even just when is another simple question. Like, is this important? Yes. When is this important? Oh, wait, not for another month from now. Okay, I can put it on hold for now. And then part of Breakthrough Your BS, one of the reasons I wrote the book, many reasons that it's a lot for myself. There's a lot of questions and stuff in there that help me, questions like this that I found that were helpful. And so it's, some of the book is almost just like rapid fire, so many different questions. Like, one of these is going to be the one that you need, and it'll unlock it.
Oh, there's a lot of them, a lot of powerful questions that like make you really think and sort of like destruct your life, right? Now, Derek, what do you say to people that already know they have this sort of limiting belief, right? Maybe it's, I'm really, scared of public speaking, and I know that like technically, or I know that factually, no one's going to come up to me, no one's going to punch me in the face, no one's going to laugh at me, but I'm still so scared of doing this. Or I know I would have, I could find a way to make more money, but I just can't get myself to do it. So how do you help people that sort of struggle with the fear, even though they know that it's really just based on limiting beliefs?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's so common. It's one thing to have awareness of it. And anyone, a lot of people, at least, who've done some sort of personal development work, or they're reading books or listening to podcasts like this, they might bring up a lot of awareness. Oh, I have these limiting beliefs, I have these things. I know it's BS, and yet I still have it. And just being aware of it doesn't necessarily always help. Sometimes it does. It's a part of the process. But a person goes, okay, yeah, I know I shouldn't be scared of speaking publicly, but just knowing that doesn't help me. What do I do? Like, how do I actually do something with this information? And so that's, by the way, a big reason for why I got into this, because there's a lot of things out there that are like these platitudes. Just face your fear and anyway, and act in spite of fear. And it's like, that's a nice platitude. It's a nice thing to put on Facebook and hit the like, or Instagram or whatever. But it's like, that's not practical for someone when you go, well, how do I act in spite of fear, for instance? So let's go with the public speaking. Someone came to me and they go, I'm scared of public speaking. And then it could start with some awareness. So there's three keys to freedom, as I say. First key is awareness. So having an awareness of what's going on, recognizing, oh, this is a thing that exists. And as you said, it could be like, what's the worst that's going to happen if you do this? And you go, actually, you know what? No one is going to punch me in the face. It's not gonna. So just building up some awareness will help shift those beliefs that it's not necessarily enough. And then next step can come an appreciation. That's the second key. You don't have to know where it comes from, but how is this actually serving you? How is having that, let's say, fear, it sounds weird, but almost like, why is that a good thing? Why can you almost be grateful that you have that fear? And this could be a pretty deep topic to get into, so I might just kind of scratch the surface of it, which is, it again goes back to that whole thing. Let's say a person is in protection mode, they don't get close to people. How is that serving them? Well, it keeps them safe, right? Keeps them from ever being heartbroken if they never get close to someone. So it's not like their mind is doing, it's not like it's malicious. Their mind is actually trying to protect them and keep them safe. When you actually have an appreciation for that, then it's actually easier to let go when it's no longer, I'm wrong for being this way. I'm such an idiot. Why am I such a wimp? I should be courageous, but I'm such a wimp because I'm scared of this. Like, no, actually, my brain, my mind is keeping me safe. It's protecting me, and I can actually thank it. And it sounds weird for some people, but actually be like, oh, thank you for protecting me. I appreciate what you've done for me up to this point. And what's something even better? What's an even more empowering belief? And now we move on to the third key, which is action, or making a new choice. You know, what would I prefer to do instead? Do I want to keep living in fear, or what would be even better? Now, there's a lot of belief change work. There's processes to take people through. There's emotional releasing processes. There's a lot of good modalities out there that can be done around that. If I were to look at this more conversationally, talking to someone and give them just a quick action step of getting over that, I'm just going to go with fear of public speaking because it's such a common one. If we were to get over that, we could explore some of the structure of what's coming in there in terms of what they feel will happen. Well, maybe people, maybe I don't know what to say. Maybe that's someone's fear. If you knew exactly what to say, though, would you be comfortable? Maybe they would say, yeah. Okay. And then the answer might just be really practical, like, okay, well, here's the script. You read off the script to get started. It could be also just, really basic exposure therapy, though. And I'll give, since there's a lot of different angles we can take, I'll give the most universal, practical, effective strategy that I share. If I were to if I were on my deathbed and out of all the work that I've done, I could only pass one thing into the world that I feel would help people break through their BS and make the biggest change in their life, it would be this 3 magic words technique. And what it is you take, you just ask yourself, can I just? And then you insert a micro commitment. What a micro commitment is work, Stanford, I think it's behavioral psychologist, professor at Stanford, BJ Fogg, I'm not sure his exact credentials, talks about mini or tiny habits. And then Stephen Geist talks about, I forgot which one. I think mini habits is Stephen Geist, tiny habits, BJ Fogg. And the whole idea is like these really small commitments that don't trigger a fear response or that much. And it just uses a little bit of willpower to push through it. So if you imagine if you're someone scared of snakes, then you might just show them a picture of a snake and they're a little scared, but then they get comfortable with it. Then maybe there's a live snake, but it's all the way on the other end of the room. Okay. Could you stand like 50 feet away from a snake? Okay, yeah, I can do that. Ooh, maybe it's a little scary, but it's way over there. And then you gradually bring it in closer and a person acclimates to it, right? Well, you can do a similar sort of thing with your habits and with other things where it's like, okay, can I just record a video of myself and delete it? I don't even need to show anyone it. And I work with entrepreneurs who are, want to speak on video and want to do speaking and they're freaked out. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like, let's not push you into like going into an auditorium full of people. Could you just record a video? You don't have to show anyone. Oh, I could do that. Okay, so do that. And what happens is, first of all, why do people not do that? Well, because they have the BS of, well, what good is that going to do, right? They're setting their standards so high. No, I need to go on Facebook Live and talk to all these people, and I can't do that. So they do nothing instead. And I'm like, okay, well, let's start with, can you just, record a video and then you can delete it and no one has to see it. And if they can just accept that it's about the process, it's not about the impact that they're going to make on other people's lives at that moment. It's about their own transformation. They do that. Okay, great. Can you show one friend now? Can you record a video and can you show me? I'm not going to judge you. Can you find one safe person who won't judge you, who is accepting, who you can show a video to? Then could you talk to one person, right? Talking to a friend at dinner and she's like, I want to record these videos and I just don't know what to say and blah, blah, blah. But then over the course of the conversation, I'm like, if you had just been recording this conversation, it would have been amazing videos to put on. But she doesn't, but I don't know what to say. Really? You just, for the last 30 minutes, you've been sharing amazing lessons and stuff like that. And that's the BS that I see. It's like, I'm talking to a friend sharing amazing wisdom, but I don't know what I would record on a video. It's like, okay. So then you just start with that. Maybe, okay, record the video, show one person. Could you speak to 2 people in a group? Could you stand up in front of 2 people and recite something on a sheet of paper that you're reading off of? Now, can you recite it from off the top of your head? Now, can you talk to 5 people in a group? Can you talk to 10 people if they're a group of friends you already feel comfortable with, right? So can I just, that next little step? Okay, it's a little uncomfortable, but I can do it. Can you just do the next thing and the next thing? And the way it works with health and fitness, for instance, change the context, would be Stephen Geist, like, he didn't use the words, can I just, that was my own sort of mental trigger, but it'd be, he would get down and do one push-up. So in his motive, can I just do one push-up? Well, yeah, of course I can. It's like almost embarrassing not to be able to just say, yeah, I can do one push-up versus doing a whole workout, right? He was procrastinating on doing a whole workout, but can I just do one push-up? For someone, can I do one squat? Can I do one jumping jack? Can I just stand up and sit down again? What's the smallest thing? Can I blink my eyes harder than normal? What's the smallest action that you can take that moves you in the direction of exercise? And then you do the one push-ups. Well, I'm already down here. Can I just do a few more? Yeah. Okay. Well, I've already done 10. Can I just finish out a set? Yeah. Well, I've already done one set of push-ups. Can I do a second one? Well, I've already done a couple sets of push-ups. Can I just do, some pull-ups? Right. And it just progressively adds into it. And what happens is momentum generates motivation. Once you get into action, the hardest part for many people is just getting into action. If you hack, so to speak, the getting into action portion of things, then momentum takes over. Then you get motivated naturally, and you don't have to sit around and wait to get motivated, which a lot of times doesn't happen. You take the action that creates motivation and then go from there. It works for habits, works for overcoming fears, it works for virtually anything where a person is stuck in inaction and gets them moving. Yeah, so I mean, with can I just is, Stephen Geist is doing one push-up. Can I just do one push-up? And then when you're doing this one thing, the momentum generates motivation. You want to keep going. So one push-up turns into two, and then it's like, well, I've done a few push-ups. Can I just finish out a set? Can I just do another exercise? Can I just keep going from there? So any sort of procrastination, this is the ultimate fix for procrastination, because you find the tiniest thing. If I'm procrastinating about cleaning my apartment, can I just clean this desk off? I don't have to do anything else. Just clean this desk off. It'll take me 2 minutes and then I'll be done. But what happens is you get a little bit of a dopamine hit and you feel that sense of like, oh, I'm kind of into this. Oh, well, maybe I can just clean off this countertop over here, but then I can quit after that, right? So the key is you actually give yourself permission to do a little bit, and you also give yourself permission to stop whenever you want. One of the reasons why this works, and the reason for the question and questions in general, is you're asking yourself and not commanding yourself. It's not, I should clean the apartment, because then that's just like beating I should, but I'm not. And now I feel guilty. And then it's just like downward spiral versus, well, can I? And if that's too much, if something's too much, you just lower it down until you reach a yes point. I do it with writing. I got this whole article to write. Well, can I just come up with a few title ideas? Can I just come up with a few headlines? Can I just write for 2 minutes and then I can quit? Can I just do, and this came from Tim Ferriss, can I just write 2 really crappy pages, right? Lowering the standards. And it's perhaps counterintuitive to some, but part of this and part of breaking through your BS is actually lowering the bar. It's lowering the standards. And one of the deceptions is going, well, I'm a high achiever. I want to do excellence. I want to create excellence. And that's great too. The thing is, a person doesn't just sit down and go, oh, I'm going to create a masterpiece and then do it without having some quote unquote failures or mistakes or some, crappy drafts in between. The masters, T.R. Doepker says, every master is once a disaster. So it's going through the reps and the doing the crappy work before you get to the great work. So the way I teach this and break through your BS is the slingshot effect. So tying in now from can I just into the principle of the slingshot effect. If you go, how do you get stronger? How do you make a muscle stronger? You might think, oh, I do resistance training. And yes, if you do effective resistance training, you will ultimately get stronger. What happens though is if you've ever done like really let's say leg work, like wall squats for a long time, or a heavy set of squats, or just intense leg work, and then you go try and like walk down a flight of stairs or up a flight, and it's like your legs are all wobbly and stuff. It's like, what happened? You just got weaker from the workout. When you go and you do resistance training, you get weaker. When you go and exercise, you're more fatigued if it's intense, and you've actually weakened your muscles, and then over time they get stronger and compensate. So if you want to go get stronger, you got to, so to speak, walk through the door of weakness. A person must be willing to be weak if they want to be strong. That's not just a physical principle. That is a principle you could apply to any area of life. I must be weak and vulnerable if I ultimately want to have strength. We talk about vulnerability in the speaking world and things like that. like that's part of it. Like the willingness to be weak and open up in relationships, willing to get close to someone, willing to let them in, the certain weakness, it ultimately becomes a path to strength. So that can show up in so many different things. That it's also the permission to go, hey, it's okay if I do some things that aren't the greatest. It's okay if I create some work. I'm a musician. If I write some songs or do mess around with some things, yeah, some of it's going to suck. That's okay. You don't get to the great without going through the suck. You don't get to the strong without going through the weak. And that's the whole idea of the slingshot effect, is that you're actually moving away from what you want. Like pulling back a slingshot, then you release it towards it. And it works the opposite way. Oh, I don't want to be stressed out, so I'm not even going to look at my bills. I'm not even going to I'm not even going to pay attention to that. Moving away from it until it piles up, until it slingshots back and hits you in the face. And by that point, people will avoid pain, myself at times included. I'm going to distract myself. I'm not going to pay attention to the things that are bothering me. And you might feel kind of better or okay in the short term, but it piles up until it gets so massive that it then comes back and causes far more pain in the long run. So a little pain now slingshots you into a lot more potential pleasure later, but just I'm going to get the pleasure now can actually slingshot a person to a lot more pain later. So all of this comes down to, are you willing to endure just a little bit of discomfort now so you can ultimately expand your comfort zone and have a much more fulfilling, greater life down the road?
Well, so much good stuff to talk about right here, and I love this slingshot effect because I think it's such an easy way to understand this sort of principle of pain and pleasure, right, and how they sort of play out over the long run. So really love that slingshot effect metaphor that you gave. But one thing I wanted to touch upon also is the appreciation that you mentioned before of the sort of intent of your limiting beliefs, of your negative emotions, of your negative habits, whatever it is. Because all our habits, all our limiting beliefs, they're designed at the end to protect us or to make us feel good in a certain way. They're designed to help us in some kind of way. And I really love the point that you're making there. Because I think it's really important to understand, if you're struggling with just eating too much crappy food, it's probably because that habit is actually designed for a purpose, because it makes you feel good again, right? It gives you that immediate sense of pleasure. So I think it's important to, like you mentioned, really take a look first at what is this actually giving me? Why does it exist in the first place, right? Because it is a positive intent, I think, behind every negative habit, every negative belief that we have. So I think that's really powerful. And then also you mentioned tiny habits. It's a concept that I really love, and I was talking last week to Dr. Pitchell from Carleton University, and he's the world's leading researcher on overcoming procrastination. And he was very much in line with what you just said of. So his whole take was, what's the next step, right? Which is sort of the equivalent to really look at, break it down, right, into a small thing, and then do that rather than focus on the overall big thing, right? And I really love that. Because that's exactly how I actually started public speaking. So I was definitely afraid, right, of just talking to my best friends. As I started, literally, like you said, recording myself on my phone, and then, eventually after hundreds of shots, I was uploaded the first video, and then I started speaking to one person, and then two, and then five. And so it's really that process, and I totally love how you broke that down, because that's literally the process that I went through. So thanks for sharing that again. Now one quote from your book that I absolutely loved. You said, distraction is morphine for the mind. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What do you mean by that?
As I mentioned before, the slingshot effect, the distraction functions as a way of not facing something that can be painful, right? And if you think about morphine, it's a painkiller. So what's the painkiller for the mind? What are the things that a person doesn't want to face or doesn't want to go through? And it's a lot easier to then go and I'm just going to distract myself with something. Now, I don't mean that this is always necessarily some life-changing thing. It could just be I don't really know what I want to do. There's a point where I was going through this and came up with it. It's before I wrote the book, Why You're Stuck. And at that point in time, I had entered into this sort of downward spiral of, I had actually written one of my books, and I was doing okay, or the book had taken off, one of my fitness books. But then I reached this point where I don't really know what I want to do with my life. Yes, I can be a writer, and I thought I had fulfilling my dreams. I got a book out and I'm making an impact and stuff. Then I started to go, well, what's it really going to matter anyway? there's other authors out there. There's other speakers out there. Who am I? Like, I'm not going to, if I die, like, yeah, my family and friends are going to miss me, but no one else is really going to care. And at the heart of it, that's where I was at. So not knowing kind of like the direction I wanted to go into my life was, a painful thing. And so it was a lot easier to just kind of distract myself with, for me, it fortunately wasn't like drugs or alcohol. It was more just like busy work or business stuff or just video games or social media or anything. But I can also appreciate very much how a person it could be food, it could be drugs and alcohol, it could be just binge watching Netflix, which I've done at times. Like whatever it is, it's these things where it's like, I don't want to face the fact that I don't maybe know the direction I want in my life, or I don't know even just what to do about a certain situation. And it could be, I'm trying to think of almost like the simplest, it doesn't have to be some epic thing. Like, I don't know my life's purpose. It could just simply be like, yeah, I don't really know I got a lot of stuff on my to-do list. I don't really know which one's the first one to do. I look at it, it's a bit overwhelming. You know what? I'm just going to mess around on Facebook for a little bit, or surf Instagram, or watch some YouTube cat videos, or like whatever it is. It could be that, like on just such a day-to-day basis. So it's morphine. It's a painkiller because it's kind of painful to have to face like, okay, maybe it's just my to-do list. Okay, I got to look at this. I got to sift and sort it. I maybe don't really know what the right thing to do is. Maybe do I need to get some help with this? I don't know how to, and like, there's just some of that. It could be just the littlest frustration or whatever. And then it's like, okay, I'll get to that later. Right. So that's one of the ways that I see, I mean, this is all personal experience playing out. And then I take a step back and look at it and also see it with clients and stuff. And I go, a lot of it at the heart of it, whether it's just a fairly mundane thing about a to-do list or something maybe more serious for a person about, their life's purpose, or maybe painful things in a relationship that they're not dealing with. Let's say a couple in a relationship. Maybe there's some tough things that they need to work through, but that could be challenging. So, well, let's just come home and watch TV. Let's just stay at work. Maybe it's the thing, or I'm just going to be busy with the kids, or what, like things that could be even important, but they become a distraction from, no, actually here's this kind of painful thing that we're going to have to deal with. And instead of just going right into that, there's something else that can numb that out to avoid it.
Yeah, I love that. There's this great quote. It says something along the lines of, procrastination is failure to get on with life itself. And I think that's really, at the heart of it, right? Is that like when we procrastinate, or when we, begin to distract ourselves with all of these different things, social media, movies, whatever it is, right? It's really failure to move on with life, right? Failure to keep pursuing your goals, failure to get clarity on what you want to, do in your life. And so I love what you're saying here about really just becoming more aware of what are the things that you use to distract yourself from actually doing the things that you're supposed to do.
Yeah. And in that regard, like, good things can be a distraction. Like, that's one of the challenging things. One thing to be like, oh, a person is just like drinking all day, every day to distract themselves, to kill the pain. That's a physical painkiller too, alcohol. It's one thing to look at that. It's another thing to be like, could a person, let's go with exercise, which obviously I'm in favor of exercise. Could a person be exercising a lot because it's a distraction from something else? Like, anything that seems quote unquote good could become a distraction. Food, obviously we need it to live, could become a distraction. They just mentioned, even things where it's like, it's important work can certainly become a distraction. Maybe it's productive. Maybe those are the more challenging things for many people, because it seems more justifiable or excusable. Oh, I'm doing something important. Yes. And do need to do some of it, but has it reached a point where it's now become a distraction from this other important thing that's turning a blind eye to? And that's the blind spot aspect of focusing so much on one thing that might actually be a quote unquote good thing, but then it becomes a bad thing. And that's what I set up in the book with, like, anything good can become bad in a certain context. If I go, is breathing good? Most people say, yeah, of course breathing's good. Yeah, well, if your head's dunked underwater, you try to take a breath, is breathing good? Well, not in that situation. It's still ultimately good because, you got to come up for air and breathe. But in that moment, taking a breath right now, perfectly wonderful thing. Taking a breath in that moment could be destructive. So it's not as simple as saying, well, this is a good thing or this is a bad thing. It's like, yeah, it's a good thing up until a certain point, and then it could become a bad thing. Then it could become a distraction. And that's where a lot of this self-awareness, as well as having people that can see a blind spot and point these things out. You go, oh yeah, you know what? I'm taking it, maybe taking it too far or not far enough, or I'm letting one thing that's quote unquote good distract me from something else that I also need to pay attention to.
Love that. A really important distinction. Now, on this podcast, we love to celebrate failure. So do you have a favorite failure in your life, failure or disaster maybe, that, was apparently destructive, but eventually set you up for later success, for more happiness, for productivity, whatever it was in your life?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll give two. The big one that I tend to talk about, you might remind me of the second one. So if I forget, then mention college. But the first one that I tend to talk about a lot is, there's a few. It goes, when I got into the whole online information world of sharing the whole idea that you could share a message, something like this, a podcast or videos or writing blogs, I go, okay, I'm going to create this incredible all-encompassing health and fitness course. So it's a 350-page guide. It was 18 hours of training videos. And I spent months working on this course. And then I actually volunteered at a seminar to learn some of the skills. I couldn't afford it. It was thousands of dollars. Couldn't afford it at the time. I was a broke valet parker, sleeping on an air mattress, aspiring rock star guitar player. So I volunteered. That's one of the ways that I got this information, which is part of my learning of be resourceful. Don't have the money. Well, how can I find a way? So I launched this course, and it had name your own price. So you could pay $1 and get everything. Because I'm like, or you could pay more. Obviously you could, pay more. And then that way I was like, this will help get some funding for me to get going. And, I talked to a lot of family and friends. And of course, most people would say that they're interested in getting in better shape or learning some of the health and fitness secrets that I've learned over, all the years at that point. So I launch it, and I had a couple people get it, like my immediate friends and family, but most people, tons of people were like, great job, awesome. And then they didn't buy it. I'm like, it's $1. It's a freaking $1. Like, can you get it? And at first I was like all excited. And then I was like, I put all this work into it. And if I can't get my own friends to buy something for $1, what chance in the world do I have that I can go out and get strangers to buy it? And how am I going to build a business if I can't sell this thing for $1? And it was so disheartening at that point, because it wasn't just that it wasn't successful. It meant something to me that I don't have what it takes, at least not right now. And I'm broke, so it's not like I'm going to be able to afford to pay some consultant. So, it'd be like, well, maybe I could just hire someone. No, I felt so stuck, because I'm like, I gave it everything I had, everything I learned how to do. And if this doesn't work, I don't know what else I have. So that was a painful failure. And then I look back, and one of the things that got me through that time, there was a number of failures and setbacks, was I just kept telling myself, this is all part of my before and after story. And so I go, okay, this is part of my before story. This is, I hear these people, they share their struggles. They share all the things that they had to go through before they were successful. Okay. I know I just stepped outside of myself a bit and said, I know this is going to be part of that, which it has become. And so as I kept moving through it, what ultimately it led to was I continued to study, learn marketing, learn about copywriting, writing advertising copy. And I kept going and kept going and kept going until, I don't know if it was probably about a year later, I wrote my third book. My first couple books weren't successful. Those were other failures, quote unquote. And then finally third book launched and became a #1 bestseller in weight loss, and made almost $6,000 in royalties in 11 days. And what's cool about that is I go, okay, the failure of that first product taught me to seek out the skills. There's so many now looking back, I'm like, there's so many more things I needed to learn. Like, I would not have been ready for success at that point, even though I thought like I figured this all out. That was one thing. But the other thing, and this is much more the practical, and I tend to be a pretty practical guy. So I go, a lot of that material that I created in that first training course, I took pieces of that and, reshaped it a little bit, but ultimately a lot of that actually went into my book, my third book, that became a #1 bestseller. So it's not that I just failed and kept going. It's that I took that, reshaped it, and it became ingredients that I pulled out of that for the thing that became successful. So what if I had never did the first failure? Like, what if I never had created that first product that was quote unquote a failure? Well, was it a failure, or was it actually just evolved into something that later on down the road was a success? Was that third book actually just a variation on that first product that I created? And this is where you start to go, wait a second, when you spread out time and start to look at things over time, that thing that seemed like a failure was actually a setup for success. And I say, you know what, it seems like, you know, what if the setback is really a setup for success? And you don't know. You don't know in the moment. I couldn't know, but it's like I also wouldn't go back and change it, because I'm like, no, I needed to create that thing and then take some of these other steps and then turn it into something that became successful. The other experience that I had, and this is maybe less of a failure, I guess, but still that same idea of a setback being a setup. When I applied for college, applied for Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, I made the decision, and it was kind of a last minute thing. I just gotten a degree in guitar in Atlanta. And then I go, you know what, I'm going to get a bachelor's degree in music composition. So I applied to Belmont, and it was like not in time or something. So like, you know, we can't accept you for this year into the music program, whatever. And, you know, I was so like angry and upset. And then I go, okay, well, what can I do? And ultimately I came up with, well, I could go back and I can live with my parents, and take my core classes at a local university, University of Southern Indiana. I was born in Indiana. So live with them, take my core classes, and then the next year I can go to Belmont and get a degree. And I did some math, and I go, actually, that's going to save me a lot of money, right? I don't need to be at Belmont for the math and whatever class. I just need to be there for the music. So I figured that out and I worked that out. And then like a week or so later, they emailed me back and they're like, actually, good news, the spot's opened up. You're accepted in the music program. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I got a better plan. Now I'm going to take my core classes here, and then I'll go for my second year at Belmont. So I go, if that didn't happen, I never would have been compelled to come up with a better solution. So that's one of those things of life kind of throwing something at me. And if I would have gone, this is so unfair, this sucks, versus, which I did at first for a little bit. And then I utilized it and I go, what if this is, I didn't ask myself this question, but now I would go, what if this is a setup? Like, how can I utilize this? Or how could I, you know, as cliche as it is, life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. It's like we hear it all the time. And yet in this moment, it was really about going, okay, it's not just what life has given me. It's like, it's up to me to go, how could this be serving me? How can I make it so that I'm actually happy that this happened? There's been other instances, but that's one of the most, that one just came up for me recently that I had remembered.
Absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing. Now, before I ask my final questions, where can listeners connect with you online? What's your favorite way?
So you can find my website for my fitness site is excuseproof.com. You can also find me on Amazon. All my books are on there. And then I help authors or aspiring authors with writing and launching a best-selling book. So that's at bestsellersecrets.com.
Awesome. Now, final question. What does mental mastery mean to you?
Mental mastery is understanding how your mind works and working with your psychology instead of against it. So when you understand how, you know, just like we've been talking about, like for instance, how to overcome procrastination. Oh, wait, it's not focusing on the whole big picture. It's focusing on just the next step. It's being able to understand these little things, these biases in the human mind, and these things that can hold us back and go, wait a second, if I just tweak it, I can actually use this to propel me forward. When you know how to take all the things that would used to maybe hold you back and actually be able to have it propel you forward, that's when you've achieved mental mastery.